There is a neighborhood in Palm Springs with fewer than 85 homes, street names after Beverly Hills, and a model home that was first occupied by two golden era Hollywood stars. It has no HOA, sits on fee simple land, borders a 120-acre nature preserve, and shows up on the architectural world's radar every single Modernism week. And yet most people searching for Palm Springs real estate have never heard of it. I'm Glen Nadeau, and in this video, we're exploring Little Beverly Hills, one of the smallest and perhaps most architecturally significant mid-century neighborhood in town. If you have questions, drop them in the comments below. Let's dive in. Let me start with something that doesn't come across on a map or a listing portal. Little Beverly Hills is not a big neighborhood pretending to be small. It is genuinely small, about 84 detached single-family homes, 2 apartment complexes tucked at the edges, and a street grid so compact you can walk the whole thing in under 15 minutes. The neighborhood organization itself describes it as one of the smallest complete Modernism neighborhoods in Southern California, with homes built principally between 1956 and 1958. The smallness is not a flaw. For the buyers who find their way here, it's the entire point. There is a neighborhood identity here that you simply don't get in the sprawling 500-home tract. People know their neighbors. The homes have architectural pedigree that's been preserved and restored over the decades. And the whole thing sits within a central to south-central Palm Springs location that gives you easy access to everything the city offers without putting the city noise on your doorstep. If you've been searching for the Palm Springs mid-century dream but want something more intimate than the famous marquee neighborhoods, Little Beverly Hills has probably already landed on your radar. So let's talk about what it's actually like to live here and whether it matches what you're picturing. The architecture is the headline here, full stop. Little Beverly Hills was originally developed under 2 names: Ramon Rise Estates for the Meiselman and the SonGold Company homes, and Enchanted Village for the Alexander Construction Company tract. Those 2 builders, working essentially back-to-back between 1956 and 1958, are responsible for nearly every home in the neighborhood. The Meiselman homes were built first from October 1956 through March 1957. They're slightly smaller, originally just under 1,200 square feet, with 1-car carports and at least 3 distinct roofline elevations. The Alexander homes followed from July 1957 through February of 1958. They came in just under 1,300 square feet, typically 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, with 2 carports, masonry fireplaces, and 6 iconic Alexander-named elevation designs buyers could choose from: El Dorado, Enchantment, Fiesta, Fleetwood, New Fleetwood, and Suburba. The design talent behind the Alexander site is worth knowing. Palmer and Krisel created the floor plans. William Krisel personally designed the Ramon Rise floor plan and the Enchantment model elevation. If you know mid-century architecture, you know the Krisel name carries real weight in Palm Springs. Having Krisel DNA in a neighborhood this intimate is genuinely notable. What you'll see when you walk the streets: flat and butterfly roof lines, post and beam structures, clerestory style light, exposed roof planks, ceiling beams, breeze block detailing, carports, and that quintessential indoor-outdoor flow that makes Palm Springs mid-century modern homes feel like they were designed for the desert climate. Many of the homes have been expanded well beyond their original footprints. Pools, outdoor kitchens, design-forward interior layered onto these classic bones. Little Beverly Hills homes started modestly and evolved into Palm Springs showpieces. By the numbers, 64 Alexander homes and 20 Meiselman homes. And as of recent Modernism Week cycles, 22 of those 84 single-family homes have appeared on neighborhood tours. That's more than a quarter of the entire neighborhood having been recognized by one of the most design-literate audiences in the country. The Little Beverly Hills tours sold out in 2023, 2024, and 2025, with 40% more tickets sold in 2025 than in prior years. This neighborhood has real architectural credibility, and the design community knows it. Geographically, Little Beverly Hills sits central to the south-central pocket of Palm Springs. The official boundaries are Ramon Road to the north and El Cielo Road to the east, Sunny Dunes Road to the south, and Compadre Road to the west. It's in the 92264 zip code, which matters for everything from short-term rental permitting to resale market comparisons. What this location gives you is a genuinely useful dual personality. You're not in the thick of downtown Palm Springs. and that's deliberate for most buyers who find their way here. But you are close. Palm Springs International Airport is nearby, Demuth Park and the Palm Springs Swim Center are in the area. Grocery stores, casual eateries, and shops are a short drive or a bike ride. The downtown corridor, the Arenas District, and Warm Sands are all within easy reach by car or bike. Little Beverly Hills is very walkable in the sense that it's a beautiful neighborhood to stroll. The streets are picturesque and architectural detail is worth taking slowly, and the whole thing borders Prescott Preserve, which I'll talk about in a moment. For daily errands, coffee, or nightlife though, you're looking at a bike ride or a short drive. This is not a neighborhood where you step out the front door into downtown energy. For some buyers, that's a selling point. For others, it's a deal breaker. Know which camp you're in before you fall in love with a listing. This one tends to stop people mid-sentence when I mention it. Half of Little Beverly Hills' boundaries include frontage to Prescott Preserve, a 120-acre former mesquite golf course that is now being restored as a nature preserve by the Oswald Land Trust. It's open to public from dawn till dusk, with trails and 184 reported bird species documented on the property. Think about what that means practically. You can buy a home in the middle of Palm Springs, centrally located, easy airport access, close to shopping and dining, and still have a nature reserve as your backyard buffer. That open space adjacency changes the way the neighborhood feels. It doesn't feel boxed in. There's sky, there's desert landscape, there are mountains framing the whole picture. For a neighborhood of only 84 homes, that is a highly unusual lifestyle advantage. For those of you who love Palm Springs trivia, Little Beverly Hills delivers. The Enchanted Village model home at 640 Compadre Road is described by the neighborhood organization as the home that started it all. Fernando Lamas and Arlene Dahl were the first two residents, two golden-era Hollywood stars living in the prototype Alexander home that launched an entire neighborhood. From there, the homes get more layered. There's the Shag house at 660 Compadre Road, designed by artist Josh Agel, known professionally as Shag, and featured during Modernism Week. The Steve Chase house at 636 Roxbury Drive is a 1957 Krisel home that was redesigned in the 1980s by Steve Chase, one of the most celebrated interior designers of his era. The Beverly at 632 Beverly Drive is an expanded Alexander home reimagined by David Rios Designs, a great example of Palm Springs maximalism layered onto mid-century bones. And one more, Atomic Ranch covered a restored Alexander home in Little Beverly Hills that had belonged to an Olympic athlete in the 1950s. It fell into disrepair over the decades and was eventually bought back as a mid-century showcase. For a neighborhood with fewer than 85 homes, there is a remarkable amount of story per square block. Little Beverly Hills requires more context than the standard market snapshot. The neighborhood is tiny. There are roughly 84 detached single-family homes. When portals like Zillow or Redfin spit out market trend data for the neighborhood this small, a single sale can skew everything. So take any automated market summary with a grain of salt. What I can tell you from the current public listings as of May 2026, the single-family mid-century homes are typically a low seven-figure conversation when they're renovated and designed forward. You're looking at a range of roughly $1.175 million to $1.535 million for an architectural home in recent listing history. There's also multi-unit and condo inventory at the edges of the neighborhood that show entry points around $365,000, but those are a different product category entirely. If you're here for the Alexander and Meiselman homes, budget in the seven figures. Inventory here is naturally limited. There simply aren't many homes to trade. When one comes available, especially a well-restored example with the right orientation, pool and mountain views, it doesn't sit long. The scarcity is structural, not cyclical. That's worth understanding if you're on the sidelines watching the market, because waiting for a price correction in an 84-home neighborhood with real architectural demand is a different calculation than waiting in a 500-home tract. Two practical points that set Little Beverly Hills apart from many Palm Springs neighborhoods. All of the single-family homes here sit on fee simple land, meaning you own the land outright, not a leasehold interest, and there is no HOA. The neighborhood organization exists and is active, but it does not impose restrictions on individual properties. No monthly dues, no architectural approval board, no rules about your paint color. You get the neighborhood identity without the governance overhead. For buyers accustomed to shopping the HOA-heavy markets, that combination of fee land and no HOA is rare in Palm Springs. The short-term rental question is one of the most common things I hear from buyers looking at Palm Springs, and the details matter. Palm Springs has a thoughtful regulatory approach in place to protect both neighborhoods and long-term housing supply. The city requires a vacation rental registration certificate and a permit for any short-term rental. For standard STR certificates, there is a cap of 20% of total homes per recognized neighborhood. When that cap is reached in a given neighborhood, no new standard certificates are issued until one becomes available. Little Beverly Hills has historically attracted vacation rental interest. There were professionally managed rentals operating here, but with only 84 detached homes, the math on the 20% cap means there are a limited number of slots available at any point in time. There's also a junior permit category that allows up to 6 rental contracts per year and does not count towards the neighborhood cap, which can be an option for some buyers depending on their goals. The practical implication: do not assume you can close on a home in Little Beverly Hills and immediately list it on Airbnb. Before any investment plan is built around the short-term rental income, you need to verify current certificate availability, permit transfer rules, contract limits, and whether the neighborhood has room under the cap. There's a conversation we have up front, not after the purchase. Choosing the right home in the right location, understanding the rental landscape before you fall in love with a specific address is part of how this strategy works correctly. For buyers with a larger horizon who want to secure a home now and let it work for them in the interim, this is still a viable conversation. You let someone else help cover the mortgage while the equity builds. Then you move in when timing is right, when life, work, and the emotional readiness all line up. The home will be there waiting for you. Doing that strategy well just means doing your homework on STR eligibility before the offer, not after. Palm Springs holds a generally distinctive place in America's LGBTQ+ history. This is a city where the community didn't just find tolerance, it found visibility, political representation, and deep cultural roots. Close to half the population now identifies as LGBTQ+. The Arenas District is the city's LGBTQ+ nightlife and cultural hub. Warm Sands has long been home to the gay men's resorts and a concentrated residential community. Palm Springs' pride, LGBTQ+ owned businesses, and a history of electing openly gay leadership all contribute to an environment where belonging is the baseline. Palm Springs is generally one of the most LGBTQ+ inclusive communities in the country. I work with LGBTQ+ buyers regularly, and the question of safety and welcome is one I take seriously in every neighborhood conversation. Little Beverly Hills sits within this area but operates as a quieter residential pocket rather than a nightlife district. If your vision of Palm Springs life is being steps from the Arenas Road on the Friday night, this neighborhood may not be the best fit. If what you want is a calm, beautiful home base in a city with visible LGBTQ+ history and community, with Arenas Road and Warm Sands still reachable by a short drive or bike ride, then Little Beverly Hills makes a great deal of sense. Buyers who feel happiest in this neighborhood tend to value design over proximity to nightlife. They're drawn to the idea of owning an architectural significant home, not just a nice house, but one with a story, a pedigree, a place in the canon of Palm Springs' mid-century history. They want a sense of neighborhood without HOA governance. They want a mountain view and outdoor living without paying trophy estate prices. And they want central access to everything Palm Springs offers without the noise of downtown on their doorstep. This works beautifully for design lovers, preservation-minded buyers, second home owners who want a home based in Palm Springs with real character, full-time residents who value quiet streets and a strong neighborhood identity, and LGBTQ+ buyers who want to plant roots in one of the most inclusive cities in the country while living in a residential pocket that feels like home rather than a resort district. The trade-off is real and worth naming. Little Beverly Hills is not as walk to everything as the downtown or Warm Sands. The single-family homes command architectural premium. STR options require upfront verification rather than assumption. And with only 84 homes, good inventory is limited and moves when it does appear. Most buyer disappointment in any neighborhood comes from mismatched expectations, not the neighborhood itself. If you go in understanding what Little Beverly Hills actually is, rather than what you imagine from a listing photo, the fit tends to be very strong. A couple things come up in conversation with buyers who've been researching this neighborhood. First, buyers sometimes confuse Little Beverly Hills with other Palm Springs neighborhoods based on proximity or naming. The Beverly Hills street names create a certain expectation of scale and grandiosity. The neighborhood is actually intimate and quiet, closer in character to a curated residential block than anything that feels estate level. Second, the idea that a neighborhood this small isn't worth the deep dive. Little Beverly Hills rewards research, the architectural history, the Prescott Preserve adjacency, the fee land, the absence of HOA, the Modernism Week visibility, the Hollywood era trivia. It all adds up to something that outperforms its size in terms of story, lifestyle, and the long-term value narrative. If Little Beverly Hills has landed on your list, or if this video clarified that it might not be the right fit, but you're still trying to find your Palm Springs neighborhood, that's exactly the kind of conversation I have every week with buyers across the country. I have many clients working through the same questions you're probably asking right now. Which neighborhood? What price range? Is the rental math real? Will I actually feel at home here? If you're sorting through Palm Springs neighborhoods based on how you actually want to live, not just what looks good on a map, I'm always happy to talk it through. People reach out to me every week who are thinking about buying now, relocating later, or quietly planning their next chapter. If that sounds like you, my contact information is in the description below. No pressure, just clarity when it's helpful. If you haven't yet already, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more exciting changes, developments, and opportunities taking place here in Palm Springs and the Coachella Valley. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.